pro-lifers, if the person you're talking to asks you if you've practiced interrupting people, this is the time to slow down. All right, welcome back to Apologist Reacts. I'm continuing my series of responding to videos on YouTube of pro-life and pro-choice people talking with each other. I asked Andrew on our staff to go and find me some videos that are good, that would be good to react to, but that I have never seen before. I have no idea what I'm getting into. This is called Pro-Life versus Pro-Abortion Debate on Campus, Feminists Lose. So I'm just gonna guess from the title that I might not love this, but let's see. I don't know what I'm getting into, but let's see what happens. And hopefully we will learn together some things to either do or not do in a dialogue about abortion. What's with the bagpipe music? It's kind of a weird choice. America! Defend innocent life! What was that? That was disconcerting. That's what that was. I've heard a lot of pro-life chants. This isn't the best. I don't think chants really do much for persuasion. But I think appealing to the love of the country on a college campus is probably not the most persuasive move. And if you're going to chant, then don't sound like that. And I'm not sure why they are wearing what they're wearing. I'm going to guess maybe that's a cultural or religious thing, so I'm not going to comment on that, but it's certainly attention grabbing. Pray and act. Wait, what's it say? Let me go back. Pray and act to end the sin of abortion. Okay, so you've got a big banner. You're wanting to get people's attention. It looks like they're minimally trying to hand out literature, which I don't think is the most persuasive thing you can do on a college campus, but I've seen worse also. I mean, it's a huge banner. They're definitely it's eye-catching, it's easy to read, so I'll give them that. If you're trying to reach out to pro-choice people, this isn't the slogan. Pray is religious, and then acting to end abortion is not where they are at if they are pro-choice, and then calling abortion sin, also religious. And so just a lot of, I could see that maybe getting the attention in a not negative way if for like pro-life religious people, maybe, but certainly not pro-choice people. I mean, I was literally just talking today with a student named Natalie who has given us permission to share her story, and I'm not going to tell the whole story right now, but she basically became pro-life because she watched part of the Equip for Life course after being invited to watch some of it with the Pro-Life Club on campus. And she literally said that when she first was talking to the Pro-Life Club at this campus fair, she said she was interested in knowing whether their arguments were religious or not. She said if they had made their arguments about religion, the Bible's against abortion or whatever, then she would have said thanks, no thanks, and walked away and not come back because separation of church and state, and she's not religious and just kind of felt like, well, then at that point, their arguments don't mean much to me if you have to be religious to be pro-life. And up until that point, she said every time she'd heard a pro-life argument, it had been religious. And it was because the students were making non-religious arguments and then invited her to watch this course that we made that was also non-religious. That is the reason that she watched it and kept watching it and became pro-life by the time she was done watching the course. So I'm just saying, you've got a chance, you've got a banner. If you're trying to get people's attention, then the word choice, like what you put on that banner, is really important. This isn't it.
I think this is great what you're doing. There's far too much liberals at this school, and they've gone...
There's far too much liberals at the school? What does that mean? Why is it bad for there to be liberals at your school? Like, what's the problem? Are you feeling like a minority? Like, okay, then lots of people to talk to, lots of people to try to have an open dialogue with. Like,
real far, like we're having Planned Parenthood events and stuff like that, and I just think it's completely wrong. And we need someone voicing a different opinion. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless you.
I'm the vice president of the pro-life.
Is that right? Splendid. How many do you have in your club?
We are now at like 50.
Is that right? That's great.
The most we've ever had.
that's a big club, by the way. Well done. 50 is a huge pro-life club on a campus. So sometimes people walk by and just say something just to bug you. Like, and Hail Satan is one of those things. It's not usually like actually like a Satanist or something like that. It's usually they're just trying to get a reaction out of you. That just happens.
Wow, what type of argument's that?
Against abortion.
It's a lot in the trash can.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I don't think it's like handing out literature is the best move. I mean, there's a stand-up comedian, I'm almost positive it's John Mulaney, who's got this bit about how when people are handing out flyers, it's kind of like saying, here, you look like you would throw this away. You look like you would throw this away. You look like you would throw this away. I'll never forget being at College of the Sequoias in Visalia, California, and I was visiting to watch another pro-life group do an outreach. So I'm across the road, basically, and I'm watching for like an hour is they had this guy kind of in the middle, and he's just like handing out tracts to everyone. In this case, they were Christian tracts. From my vantage point, I could watch, most of them were coming from this direction. They were heading toward this big library. And as they would get toward the library, there was a trash can, and I was watching almost everyone he had handed a tract to throw it away. It was like this confusing looking tract. Is this thing, I think maybe Ray Comfort sells this one, but it looks like $1 million bill. And so it's kind of eye-catching and like mysterious. And so you kind of like take it and like, what is this? And you open it up and it's kind of like something like, it's even better than $1 million. Like Jesus, it's like, being saved and going to heaven. And then like, I would just watch these people like reading this as they're walking away and just like super annoyed and then like throw this thing in the trash. And by the end of the day, the trash can looked like this. It was just filled with tracts. Meanwhile, the guy handing out the tracts was completely oblivious. He's just like, hey, and like just he meant well, you know what I mean? But it's like there are much more persuasive things that can be done on a college campus. I wouldn't be super offended that people were ripping up literature that has been like, like a lot of times they don't know what it is when they take it, and then like get frustrated and like whatever.
I didn't catch it on camera, but 2 people spat at us right on the floor.
Okay, so that's definitely not okay. No one on either side should be spitting at each other.
So God is a factual source now?
You're going to read it first?
Excuse me, what are they?
Hey. Don't touch it. Why are you afraid of being filmed?
We don't want to be.
You have no right to be recorded.
You have no right to be recorded.
Okay, so this has escalated a lot really quickly. I think most people know by now you do have the right to record in public. There's no expectation of privacy, basically. It's like generally speaking, the way, like privacy laws work, filming laws work. This is not like a one-party versus two-party thing. If you're out in public and there's no expectation of privacy, you can be filmed. You can be audio recorded. But they were really upset about the filming. But I felt like there's something that I didn't like that was happening on the pro-life person's face right at the beginning of this. That is a very smug look. This girl has come up flipping them off. She's clearly pro-choice. She's clearly bothered by this. And he has handed this thing as like, don't you want to read? And he looks super smug. And that's obnoxious. So I think this is not the move if you want to convince pro-choice people to not be pro-choice. It's tricky because he's basically reacting to clearly a religious piece of literature because he instantly is like, so you're saying like God's not pro-choice or something like that. I couldn't quite make it out. So having your literature be super religious is also not the move if you want to convince non-religious people to become pro-life. And then just things escalate really, really fast. And unfortunately, the pro-choice people seem to be under the impression that they have to give their permission to be filmed in public, which is just not true.
So God it's a factual source now.
You're gonna read it first?
Excuse me, what are these?
Hey.
Don't take
Don't touch it. Why are
It's obviously also not okay to like grab people's property, to grab like a stack of flyers from Planned Parenthood or whoever to like throw them away or get rid of them. Like that's not okay.
you afraid of being filmed?
We don't want to be.
You have no right to be recorded.
You have no right to be recorded. No.
It's not okay that she went out, it looked like to grab the camera. It's one thing to be like blocking your face or whatever. It's another thing to like actually go and grab for it. And that has happened before where people have tried to grab someone else's camera or like their phone, their iPhone or whatever, because they're being filmed. Not okay. You can get in big trouble for that.
No right to be recorded.
Please, can you put the camera down? Can you delete the videos of us?
Public sidewalk. Public sidewalk.
This
You
was
touch
the
me
one that
again,
tried
we're
stealing
calling the
yours.
cops.
I'm calling the cops.
You trying to take these flyers?
Yeah, because you're handing them out.
Tried stealing.
Okay. So I think the pro-life guys here are basically saying the right things. They're saying public sidewalk, which is fair. That's basically, why they can be filming. This gentleman on the right seems to be acting fairly calm. I appreciate that. And them saying, well, yeah, I was going to take them because you're handing them out is not a good argument. This is stealing their stuff. No one should do that to either side.
You went to grab it.
I was putting my hand
We
in
were
front of the
blocking
left.
it.
I guess they're waiting because they called cops. I don't really know.
I mean, I would just welcome that. I'd be like, cool, call the cops. I was about to, so, that's fine. And let the cops come and deal with it.
You're welcome to.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. See your videos. Yeah.
Do you have any scientific evidence to prove life begins in it?
Okay, so here's the tricky thing about that question is it is not clear what she means by life. This common thing that happens in the abortion debate is, does she mean biological life? Does she mean, like, do you have scientific evidence that biological life begins at conception? Like you have a unique human organism at conception or fertilization? Or do they mean something more philosophical, something like valuable life, something like, is it a person? Is it something that has rights and intrinsic value? In which case, the way her question is worded is a category error. There's no scientific evidence that proves that anything is valuable. Science can tell you what it is. It cannot tell you whether or not it matters morally. That is a philosophical question. So science versus philosophy.
There's several doctors, including Harvard Medical School.
Okay, so he's assumed in his answer that she's asking about a biological thing, which is understandable given that she asked for scientific evidence. But I would have stopped and asked a clarification question. But do you mean biological life? And explain what that means if I need to, or do you mean something more philosophical? I'm happy to answer either one. I'm just not sure what you're asking. I want to make sure I answer your question and not the one that's in my head that might be not what you're trying to ask.
Dr. Bon Giovanni, Dr. Michelin Matthews Roth.
I would understand if you're arguing against late trimester abortion, but that is only
so why is that
if
wrong?
the life of the fetus.
Why is late term abortion wrong, in your opinion?
Because at that point, like almost to the point of pregnancy, that is close to a life because it has most of its.
So you're gonna bet somebody's life on the word "it's close to a life"? You're gonna bet a baby's life on that?
Yeah, because before that, it's not even conceivable to imagine that you could classify that as a life. Who would?
I don't feel like either of them are doing great here. She changed the topic. She asked a question. It got answered. Now, it might not have been the answer she was looking for because he was talking about scientific evidence and maybe she was talking about something philosophical. So like now it seems like she's talking about philosophical life at this point. At least that's what it feels like to me. When she's talking about like conceivably it could be considered a life, that feels like she's talking philosophical. So they're probably talking past each other like pro-life and pro-choice people often do. This is not a productive conversation. There is no chance that either of them are going to change each other's mind right now because right now everything is very, very tense. There's interrupting each other going on. There's no common ground happening at all. It's just pure debate stuff, which, is entertaining to a lot of people who want to watch this kind of thing on YouTube, who want to watch their own side intellectually beat up on the other side. That is a very popular thing for a lot of people. I'm just saying no one's actually changing their mind right now. And that's what I'm interested in.
You want to live like that. You can't even survive outside of your host's
I'm
body.
pretty sure everybody here started out like that. Everybody lives like
But
that at a certain
but before the 20-week point, that is not a child. That is not a life.
What
that's
is it?
not
It has its
that
own
is not
separate
here.
DNA, unique in all human history. Your DNA is unrepeatable. From the moment of
And so fingerprinting, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, so pointing out DNA doesn't tend to be persuasive to pro-choice people. We're talking about DNA because that is not the part about you that matters. She's right. Your skin cells also have DNA. Like, it's so easy to respond to. What I would be wanting to say is, it seems like we both agree that equality is really important. I want to make sure that everyone is treated equally, at least when it comes to the protection from violence. And I want to understand why we should draw the line at 20 weeks or whatever. Help me understand, because it seems like the line we're talking about drawing is a very important one. It shouldn't be arbitrary. We shouldn't just draw it because we have to and just like make it random. Like, it should make sense. So help me understand why, like, what happens at 20 weeks that you think that now it's got value, or just like try to figure out what's going on and like try to get her to explain her views more instead of this rat-a-tat-tat-tat debate thing. By the way, also just want to note, there is editing has been done in this video. This was produced by the pro-life people. So I don't know if what has been cut is merely like long silences or something like that, or if some of her better responses have been cut. I don't want to like accuse the group of deceptively editing the video, but a lot of videos like this are deceptively edited. And I'm just going to say, as a video editor, I am noticing cuts and just want that said.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. People, personhood.
Okay, wait a minute. You weren't talking about personhood until now. You were talking about biological life. She's been talking about personhood. You've been talking about biological life, which is why that's been going on.
From the moment of
Do you guys like
conception.
practice on how to interrupt and belittle people or not?
Oh, do you practice on how to interrupt people? Burn. Now, I feel like I've seen her interrupt also, like, to be fair, like no one's really listening to the other side. They're listening to refute. They're not listening to understand. So, like, there's a lot of that going on. But pro-lifers, if the person you're talking to asks you if you've practiced interrupting people, this is the time to slow down. You're going too fast. You should stop interrupting. You apologize and promise to try to do better. Ask for another chance.
24 days. 24 days. It already has a beating heart. So anytime after 24 days, is it a person if it has a beating heart?
No, most pro-choice people don't think that you are a person as soon as you have a beating heart. At 24 days, before she might even know she's pregnant. No, most pro-choice people think personhood begins later. They think it's a potential person throughout the whole first, maybe second trimester. A lot of pro-choice people think that maybe it's a person later, and so let's be extra cautious. But they would say it's not a person until it's minimally sentient, and maybe something later, something like viable, able to feel pain, self-aware, something like that. And so he's asking like almost like, of course you would agree, right? That once there's a heartbeat, it's a person. It's like squirrels have heartbeats, man. They're not people. So like there's probably more involved than that.
24 days when it has a
Brain
beating
dead
heart.
people have a beating heart, but that because they have no brain activity, people know that it would be suffering to keep them alive, so they pull the plug. So a fetus with no brain activity, no thoughts, no spirit, no personality.
Okay, now she's getting at the things that she actually think matters. This is really, really helpful data. If I'm there, I'm like, okay, she's talking about personality. She's talking about like it being able to think. Okay, let's talk about that. Are you talking about the kind of thing that you have at birth or probably later than birth, right? Most babies don't really have personality or hardly any kind of real thinking going on until after birth. So that's the direction I would go. I'd be doing the equal rights argument. I wouldn't be just being argumentative with her.
Know anything. That's not a life.
They have ultrasound cameras, like 3D imaging, and they can see the baby. Babies even move when their mothers sing to them. There have been babies who dance in the womb to the music being played outside the womb. They feel pain. They respond to the mother's voice. A mother who...
To be fair, most of those things don't happen till after most abortions are performed. Like, just intellectually honest. He's talking about a lot of stuff that happens in the second and third trimesters, which is not when most abortions happen. Now, she has basically said she's for abortion until fairly late, or she's at least implied it. I don't think no one has asked for an actual like real clarification question, but me reading between the lines as best as I can, that's where she's at. So it's like legitimate to like, you know, point out those things, although I don't think it's persuasive to most college students, like just the things that biologically the fetus can do. I know that's convincing to some. I'm not going to say it's never convincing to anyone. I've seen Juno too. Like I know that actually works for some people, but for a lot of college students, merely saying like, here's some things that a developing baby can do fairly late in the pregnancy doesn't like switch them to instant, oh, that must mean it's a person. Unfortunately, it's just not that easy.
Is praying for a baby. At the 3rd trimester, she hasn't delivered yet.
Wait a minute, did he say praying for a baby?
A mother who is praying for a baby. At the 3rd trimester, she hasn't delivered yet. Is that a baby?
Wait a minute. Why is he talking about the mother praying for the baby? I guess, is he just trying to get at the idea that she wants the baby, that she's not wanting an abortion? I feel like that's a really odd way to put that and like unnecessarily religious, but that's just me.
In her eyes, because she wants it.
So, but that's the thing. It either is a baby or it's not, because it can't be a baby and not a baby at the same time.
It can't be a baby because you want it.
Because of rape, it's still a baby, even though it was a rape. You understand my argument?
After 20 weeks.
Okay. The topic of rape is a very kind of just integral part of the abortion conversation. And it's something that pro-life people need to be very sensitive with. I typically let the pro-choice person bring it up. Hopefully by that point I've built up some rapport so they can tell that I'm not, you know, kind of like this horrible person that just doesn't care about survivors of rape. And then when I talk about how horrible rape is and I find a lot of common ground, like it's more meaningful to them, I feel like I can pull that off if it does happen at the beginning of the conversation. I've done that. This is less than ideal. I'm not usually the one that brings it up. And if I did, I wouldn't bring it up like that, where he showed zero sadness or like discomfort with the idea of like what the woman has experienced who has been raped. And I know that men can be raped too. It's just not part of the abortion conversation, okay? We're talking about women who are raped and maybe become pregnant and might want an abortion. I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt to this gentleman and say he probably, if you asked him, do you feel bad for people who have been raped? He would say yes, and he'd probably mean it. Like if you hooked him up to a lie detector, I believe that's true. The problem is I can't tell. I can't tell if he cares about survivors of rape because the way that he's talking about the subject. He just brought it in as like an example, another example of the law of non-contradiction. He's basically explaining the law of non-contradiction. A baby can't be both A and not A at the same time. Like, I understand what he's doing. It's just like when you're in a dialogue, you make a lot of decisions. We have this motto. We talk about how every conversation is a series of difficult judgment calls. And in a, like a Christian audience, we would add a missed prayer without ceasing. This is a bad judgment call that he just made. Now, sometimes we do that. I have made bad judgment calls too in conversations, okay? I'm just saying, this was a bad one.
Yeah, I'm getting tired.
Yeah, they're gone. They're gone. Why? Because a man just brought up rape to these young women who, you never know, may have suffered sexual assault themselves or certainly know people who have with zero emotion. And they're done. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore. And frankly, I don't blame them. Is someone playing the bagpipes there? Is this diegetic audio, meaning like this is audio that can be heard there? Or did they add this in post? I really want to know that.
While different opinions are very appreciated in different settings, this opinion is dangerous
and it's uneducated.
Well, it's saving babies, so I don't see it as dangerous.
Saving babies doesn't exactly correlate with saving lives.
That was a very small clip from a back and forth that probably was longer than that. And I kind of feels like the point of this video is to dunk on pro-choice people saying things that sound silly to pro-lifers. Like the idea of saving lives and saving babies are different things. Like, on its surface, sounds silly to pro-lifers who are just coming from a different place. We're not showing any understanding for what she actually meant. She probably meant that what you're doing might cause people to want abortion to become illegal and therefore more dangerous. And maybe some women will die trying to have dangerous, illegal abortions. And saving babies might not equate to saving lives because maybe they're not even really alive. Not in a meaningful sense. Not living persons. Potential persons that would become valuable later if you let them go, but they're not there yet. And so you have this window where you can end their life, and it's like eating eggs. It's not a big deal at that point. You know, it doesn't morally matter to them. But that was not explored. That interesting concept. Instead, you just have this little, 10-second clip meant to dunk on pro-choice people in a video with feminists lose in the title. I'm sorry. I'm getting pretty annoyed.
So that's not an argument.
They made me have rights.
No, the baby, it's not about the baby. It's about the woman's rights.
It is about
You
the right
come
of
here
life.
once a year to start a ruckus. Are you
Abortion!
Oh, the bagpipes there. That's the bagpipe. Maybe the argument is that the bagpipe helps draw attention. I would be very annoyed if I were trying to have dialogues and there's any kind of music being played loudly, much less bagpipe music. Again, these dialogues, it's just like they're not dialogues. They're just people saying slogans at each other and not listening, not really responding to each other. It's just debate. And it's not changing anybody's mind.
Not merciful, not compassionate, and not a choice. It's not your body, and it's not your choice. When you're pregnant, do you have 4 arms and 4 legs and 2 heads?
That is not what most pro-choice people mean when they say my body, my choice. Okay? Pro-life people misunderstand this all the time. There are memes. I'll put one here. I'll put one right here. That meme is not responding to what most pro-choice people mean when they talk about bodily autonomy or bodily rights. I know it responds to like 1%. There's like 1% of pro-choice people that be like, yes, during that time, it's literally a part of a mother's body, like a kidney, like an organ, something like that. Most pro-choice people, what they mean is either it's not a person because it's completely dependent on her body, but even that I don't think is that common anymore. Much more likely they're saying it doesn't matter if it's a person because it's in her body and it's dependent on her body. And either they're making what Trent Horn calls a sovereign zone argument, where they're basically saying that a woman can do whatever she wants with her body and or anything inside of her body, or they're making a right to refuse argument, a better pro-choice argument, says that at least a woman should have the right to refuse to have her body hooked up like a life support machine, a la Judith Jarvis Thompson's famous violinist thought experiment. I'm going to put a link in the description to a whole landing page that we made of responses to bodily rights arguments. It's a really important part of the abortion debate. But we have an article explaining why this meme is strawmanning most pro-choice people. And I'll tell you, I know pro-life people don't want to hear it. There is a guy at LifeSite News. He hates this article so much that every time we retweet it, he tweets his same response about how this is so silly and pro-choice people mean exactly, what's in that meme and this whole thing. Like, he hates this meme. But I'm sorry, guy. Like, we've talked to over 5,000 pro-choice people. We've asked a lot of clarification questions when we're talking about bodily rights arguments so that we don't straw man them. And to be fair, we talk to a lot of people on college campuses. So we are talking to a more intellectual segment of the abortion debate. Maybe there are some more people who are like internet trolls who have not thought about this very much and they haven't read Thompson or whatever, and they mean the sillier thing. Just saying, a lot of people don't mean the silly thing. If the pro-choice argument you're responding to is ridiculously stupid, probably you're missing it. Probably that's not what they mean. Because the other side, I don't care who you're listening to, but if you're listening to conservative talk radio or certain talking heads on YouTube that are really popular among conservatives, you are being trained to think that pro-choice people or liberals are idiots. A lot of them aren't. If the talking heads you listen to make you feel good because they're always dunking on the stupid people on the other side, stop listening to them. It is hurting your soul. It is going to make it so hard for you to actually have real conversations with these people because you're going to be thinking about how stupid they are in your head. And you are not being equipped to respond to actually thoughtful, interesting arguments on the other side. And they exist. Look at this guy's face. Is this what conservatism is now? Is looking like this at pro-choice people while asking them a stupid question?
Always sit down.
I'm talking about the humanity of people, allowing people
Us too.
to
We're
have
talking
their
about humanity
choice.
of unborn.
You are my body as a woman to do what I do
It takes
with
a man and a woman to have a child.
What?
So we just had a woman pour water on Mr. Joseph Wagner. So accepting.
So obviously that's not okay. How many bagpipes are here? You want to know what college students are listening to while they walk to class and they have their earbuds in? It's not bagpipe music. This is so bad. Oh yeah, I was going to say don't pour water on people. Like obviously. Obviously it's not okay that some pro-choice person went to pour water on the guy and maybe could have damaged his camera. You want to know what's also not a good look? How many pro-life women do you see in this shot? None. But I count 10 dudes. Optically speaking, it's not the most persuasive to the other side. Is it right for the same pro-life argument out of a dude's mouth to not be taken on average as seriously as if we're coming out of a pro-life woman's mouth? No. If you want to know how to respond to the "you're a man, you don't get to talk about this" thing, which I have to deal with in literally probably every conversation that I have on a college campus, I'll put a link below. Do that. And singing. They're doing a chant, "My body, my choice," and they're singing something. What are you trying to accomplish? I literally have no idea what they're doing. Except, I guess, feeling self-righteous. Feeling like God loves what is happening here. I don't think this is what it looked like when Jesus spent time with just like regular people, sinners, whatever. I don't think it looked like this. I don't think his disciples acted like this either. So if the whole idea is God is looking down on us and smiling right now, I'm sorry, I don't think so. Like, I don't think they really care about persuasion that much. Or if they do, they're not good at it. But I think it's a lot more about making a statement. A lot of people are just about making statements than changing people's minds. I am so not interested in just making statements. I could not care less about merely making a statement. Who cares? Have you changed people's minds? Are you the kind of person that when a pro-choice person talks to you, they want to become pro-life because you are so winsome and loving and thoughtful? That's what I care about. Not whether or not you can all stand wearing the same uniform, singing the same song. Okay, so they're chanting tradition, family, property. Wonder how many people's minds that changed that day.
What does this have to do with abortion?
Because y'all over our community as well. You don't understand. It's all just like the way you link everything. You're like, oh hey, anti-abortion, anti-LGBT. It's all like the anti-abortion argument came from like a political link. Where they're like, hey, let's have like we want people to like.
You can't tell me why he has.
That person's upset. That person needed a moment to collect him or herself But instead, you got a video editor that's choosing to put in the part that makes that person look illogical and mock them by putting logic failure on the screen.
The transgender flag at a pro-abortion rally.
Yeah, what's transgenderism have?
Trying to figure out that is.
Oh, it's foul.
What do you guys do?
What's foul is the way that you think about people who are different from you. What's foul is you have no idea how much you need to repent for the way that you have treated other image bearers in this video that you guys put out on purpose. Like, you're proud of this.
What are you?
This is our job, TFP.
How do you get paid? You get paid for this?
Donors.
Who donates? Chick-fil-A? We'll be back.
Oh man, they've got more of these. There's 24 of them. Oh man. There are two very different possible futures for the pro-life movement. Pro-lifers who act smug and haughty and love to publicly make fun of pro-choice people. Or we can go out and show people that we're loving, that the reason that we're against abortion is because we want equal protection from violence for all people equally, and that we have compassion, that we are doing our best, more than most, to help women in need, to help survivors of rape, to help all of these people, new moms who weren't planning on getting pregnant. And when we dialogue with them, that we listen, that we ask questions because we're actually interested in what people think, who are different, that we're open-minded, that we want to find common ground when we can, and then carefully use thoughtful arguments to show them where maybe their logic isn't the best, or maybe their argument is not the one that makes the most sense at the end of the day. What's it going to be? But that's going to come down to what do you support? You're going to subscribe to channels like this, donate to groups like this, then that is more likely the future. Or you can support groups who are trying to make a difference, who are trying to change the tone of the abortion debate. And I hope you'll pick the latter. And I wasn't planning on doing like a pitch to donate, but I'll say there's a lot of stuff that we're not doing because we don't have the funding. And if you want to support our vision for the future of the abortion debate, we could really use it. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Link and subscribe, comment. I'm interested in your thoughts. I know that I got pretty riled up today. This was really frustrating to watch. I hope it's been edifying. I'm not very happy right now, but I hope this is giving you something to think about. Get the Equipped for Life course if you want to learn more about how we dialogue, the dialogue tips that we teach, the best pro-life arguments that we found to work after over 5,000 conversations. You can get that at equippedcourse.com. You can use the coupon code YouTube to get 10% off. Now go have an important conversation. And please do it lovingly.